Over the span of a week, I have had a number of strange encounters. It started when I was sitting in a vacant lot with my buddy shooting his gun, when we heard dogs crying and howling. We made a few jokes out of it, but then we watched a deer walk out and it just didn't look right. It looked like something trying to look like a deer. Its legs didn't move right and it looked like it was drunk. The deer eventually takes off and we start to hear the dogs howling and sounding distressed. I was thoroughly spooked. Being native, I have heard plenty of spooky stories about skinwalkers, and as I started to drive, we both noted a putrid smell. The following night, as we were driving through town, I smelled it again. Rotten meat is the best description I have at the moment. A deer who looks odd, like the one spotted the night before, runs out and stares at my vehicle before darting off into the darkness. As we finish driving down the stretch of the street, we hear a man scream and nope the crap out of there. We head back to his house to sit and chill on the deck and theorize about what had just happened. And then we hear a low whistle. As I was walking back out to my vehicle, I can hear dogs howling again. A large black dog runs out from a house and stares me down before it takes off. I drove home with just the worst feeling of dread and uneasiness. I worked the next night as a security guard and had a small area to patrol, literally 2 trailers of equipment. I had walked around the trailers once and was about to do one more loop when I heard an owl very close by. I kept walking and found a large feather in between these trailers. I was just there. It was laying right where I had shined my flashlight and seen nothing. I went home and was laying in bed and heard something walking around smacking the side of my house. I heard something trying to open my bedroom window. I'm trying to be as rational as I can, but I'm starting to get a little freaked out. This is a very old story I heard from my elders about a witch couple and their baby. I still get chills hearing this story. Well, the story goes as it was told. This happened at the middle village of Zuni, long ago before there were any form of outside lights and such. A woman there had just married her second husband. Her first husband had passed away less than a year, and she already remarried, which is taboo in our belief. She had to wait 4 years before getting remarried, but she did not, and fell in love with the man that took her in. The new husband was not normal. He was a witch, and using his poisoned words, he convinced the women to get initiated into his witch society. So she did, and became a witch herself. She and her 2 kids, a daughter and a little son from her first husband, lived with the witch man, until one day she went out to get water at the well. She was gone for a while, as her husband tended the kids at home. Looking at the kids, a thought came to his head. He went out and looked to see if his wife or anyone was at the well. There was no one, so he quickly fetched a pot of water and ran home. As he got home, he put the pot of water in the fireplace and began to boil it, then added a red feather in the pot. The water boiled hot. He then walked over to the youngest infant, a baby boy about 8 months old. He smiled at the kid and walked towards the boiling pot. He lifted up the cover and put the baby in the pot. The baby boiled up and down, so he put the cover back on and started speaking in tongues. As he was doing this, the women returned from the well and noticed a pot of boiling water and saw her husband lying face up on the floor nude, body painted black and white and shaking. She slowly walked up to his face. The husband's eyes were pitch black and wide open. She got scared and shook her husband to wake up. As she did that, the man woke up and let out a loud scream in her face. The scream sounded like a baby and a beast dying. She got frightened and screamed. She ran to her daughter while the husband shook and screamed on the floor. She then noticed her son was missing. Just then, the husband snapped out of it and was in pain. "Where is my son?" she asked. The man looked at the pot and said, "I am initiating him into our society, so we can all be together." Smiling at the woman, she cried, "No, you can't do this to my baby." She couldn't stand it no more, and walked over to the pot and opened the cover. She looked in and saw her baby staring upward with his eyes wide open, not even blinking, and lifeless. She took her baby out, but it was too late. The poor infant was cooked and dead. She screamed and cried where others could hear her. The people stopped by asking, "What's the matter?" She lied to the people, saying the pot tipped over and scalded her baby. But the people saw the husband and thought otherwise. Just then, the husband snapped and went crazy, screaming at the people to get out. As this happened, the husband fell dead on the floor. Blood ran out of his mouth, eyes, and nose. The women tried to get people out of their house, but the people already knew the couple were witches, because they saw the husband all painted up. After that happened, the women went so crazy, she kept her dead baby as if he was still alive. For days, she walked with her toddler daughter in the fields holding her dead baby. Then one day, she just disappeared, never to be seen again. This is an old story my elders spoke of. They say the baby died because the initiation was interrupted by the women, and the evil the husband summoned fell back on them. I've just recently been introduced to the idea of skinwalkers, but now I'm convinced what I saw last year was just that. So, last year, a friend from school invited me to a sleepover at his house. It was going to be a small party with 4 kids. I'll describe us as it becomes important later. I'm tall and kind of skinny, with long brown hair. Parker is really small, short and skinny, with short blonde hair. Peter is tall and has a larger frame in terms of weight, with short dark brown hair. And Michael is average height with his curly black hair. So the sleepover was going well. Michael's dad decided to cook us dinner, and after eating, we all got bored. Michael had a huge forest behind his house, so we decided to go play manhunt in the woods. Stereotypical, I know. Around 400 feet into the forest, on the left, there's a barbed wire fence that separates the forest from a factory. Parker and I hid first, and nothing exciting happened. So Parker and I walked back to Michael's house to count. When we finished, we went back into the forest to search for Michael and Peter. On the right side of the forest area, there's a small stream that goes pretty far, like 200 feet or so long. Down the stream, I noticed movement from a tall figure. I elbowed Parker in the shoulder and pointed my flashlight down the stream. My light didn't quite reach far enough to make out details, but I could see a tall figure standing between 2 trees that were very close together. Immediately, I assumed I had found Peter. "Peter," I called, "I see you." Immediately, the figure starts waving its arms around in an almost unnatural way that's almost resembling dancing. Parker then pointed out something I should have noticed immediately. "Colin," he said, "Peter couldn't fit between those two trees." I realized he was right. Almost right after he said this, the figure stopped dancing and slowly backed up until it was no longer in view of my flashlight. "We should go back," Parker said, visibly afraid. I agreed, shouting for Peter and Michael to come out and that the game was off. However, I still had clung to some hope that the figure that we had just seen was actually just Peter. From the other side of the fence, both Michael and Peter crawled out from underneath a forklift. They both came out through a gap in the fence. "Wait, what the heck?" I said, audibly confused. "What?" Michael asked. Then, suddenly, in the distance, we heard some sort of shriek and sudden, heavy footsteps pounding toward us. We all turned and ran back, and when we could see Michael's house again, I turned to see what was in close pursuit of our group. A large, skinny creature, around 9 feet tall and completely black. Its eyes were completely white apart from black pupils. I screamed and we poured into Michael's front door, slamming and locking it. Whatever the thing was, slammed into his door a few times and ran back into the forest. 1 or 2 hours later, it must have been like 12 a.m. now, we enlisted the help of Michael's brother to go search for whatever the creature was, armed with kitchen knives and flashlights. Peter, however, refused to go. We were gone for around 30 minutes, and when we returned, Peter was sobbing. I asked him what was wrong. Between his sniffles as he calmed down, I made out that he had heard tapping on all of the downstairs windows and patterns of 6 almost the entire time we were gone. He also heard scratching on the windows behind the couch he was sitting on. This freaked us all out. There were no bushes around any of Michael's windows, and no trees low enough or close enough to his house to scratch first floor windows. We all settled down around an hour later, and after we had turned off the TV and had been lying around for a while, we all heard it. The same tapping Peter had described earlier, exactly how he described it. The tapping stopped after about 15 minutes, and it became a frantic scratching sound. His doorknob twisted a few times. After another 10 minutes of this, the creature left. In the morning, we found scratch marks and weird thin fingerprints on all of his downstairs windows. This story is not fiction, although some of the details may have changed over the time due to my memory. But we found a skinwalker in the woods. It followed us home, and it stalked us. Hey, thanks for watching my video on skinwalkers. If you would like to like and subscribe to my channel, please do so. If you have any suggestions on what I should do next for my channel, please let me know in the description or comments. You can also message me directly. Just remember, tread carefully in the 9th inner circle.